I love One Piece. Over the past 6 years, it has absolutely took over my life and has made me question everything I loved before it. It has inspired me so much so that I want to create a story of my own. Not a copy, but something entirely new that gives people the same feeling experiencing it that I had watching One Piece. In this series, I want to explore the storytelling and characters of TV shows, films and video games and see what makes them loved and what makes them hated. All in the pursuit of creating the best story I possibly can. Today, we will be exploring Monkey D Luffy, who he is and why he is loved. Luffy, to many, is a very stagnant character, meaning he doesn't seem to grow or change throughout the show, and I partially agree with that, but I do believe he has growth, just not how it's usually portrayed. Throughout the show, he has a very simplistic mindset. He loves his friends and will do anything for them. He wants to be the Pirate King and find the One Piece, but refuses to take shortcuts in reaching it. This journey is Luffy. And so are we. Now, what do I mean by that? As an audience or reader, we learn the world through Luffy's eyes. We experience everything he does as it happens. Luffy is new to all of this. And as he grows and gains a deeper understanding of the world and the people in it, so do we. Luffy embodies the reader. But how does he also embody the journey? Well, Luffy is a driving force behind the story of One Piece. He is a catalyst that sparks the events of his journey. He is the captain. And as much as Nami would disagree with that statement, ultimately it is his decisions that take the Straw Hats into conflict. He decides where to go, what to do, and who joins the crew. Without Luffy, there would be no adventure. And I know you're thinking, well duh, obviously he's the main character, of course the story wouldn't happen without him. But you see, it does happen without him. The world building of One Piece is amazing. The characters, the locations, they all build off one another, they all link, and they all have their own shit going on. If Luffy wasn't there, Alabasta would still be in a civil war. Ace would still be chasing Blackbeard, and Kaido would still be ruling over Wano and starving its citizens. These are just a few examples, but they perfectly demonstrate the fact that One Piece does not need its main character. Many shows revolve around their main character. They are usually the most developed character with the most depth, and by taking the camera away from them, it usually results in the audience getting bored. If you ask One Piece fans what their favourite arc is, a lot of them will say Marineford. It is an arc that was built up throughout the show, and one that causes major changes in the One Piece world. But one thing this arc does that many shows can't, is take us away from the main character. For the start of this arc, we have many episodes that barely show Luffy at all, and is instead focused on many characters that we don't know much about. This works partially due to the fact that we want to learn more about these new characters, but also because Luffy is not the most developed character in One Piece. What do I mean? Going back to Luffy being a stagnant character, when we are introduced to him, he is at the end of his character arc. He is confident and he is successful. We don't see him fail anything. He recruits everyone he wants to, he defeats everyone he wants to, and he saves everyone he wants to. This would usually make a very boring and uninteresting character. As an audience, we want them to struggle, we want them to be the underdog, so that when they win, they have accomplished a lot more. So why does it work? Why do people love Luffy? Because of the people around him. Luffy is extremely consistent in the way he interacts with others. He acts as a beacon of light and joy in a world where, despite the pretty colours and wacky characters, there isn't a lot of hope. It is a dark world ruled by an overbearing government with little to no respect for the citizens that inhabit it. It is a world ruled by fear. Luffy journeys through this world and gives the characters around him the opportunity for hope, but only once they accept it. Take this scene from Arlong Park, for example. Nami has been traumatized by this dark world, losing her mother and the majority of her life in the pursuit of freedom, not only for herself, but for her entire village. After realizing it was all a waste, and in the face of losing everything, she begins to stab herself. Over and over again. It is a gut-wrenching scene, because you feel the weight of her suffering, you feel the impact. And then there's Luffy. He stops her from hurting herself, but nothing more. He waits patiently. Up until this point, we only really know Luffy as a confident but childish character. He's selfish and clumsy, and not the type to stand by and do nothing. Yet he waits. It isn't until Nami turns around and asks for his help that Luffy steps into action. Because Luffy isn't there to beat the shit out of Arlong. He isn't there to put an end to his actions. He's there to help Nami. And he lets her make that decision. It shows that Luffy is emotionally intelligent, and while careless with his safety, he is careful with his friends. Now, I mentioned that Luffy doesn't fail, or rather that he doesn't struggle to succeed, but I forgot to mention when he does. The Summit War Saga. I already talked about Marineford, but this saga stretches back to Sabaody Archipelago, and is a saga that primarily focuses on Luffy's failure. It is intense, from start to finish, because it breaks the rule that One Piece set for itself, that Luffy succeeds. Now, I won't spoil the major events in this saga, but if you've watched One Piece yourself, you know how stressful this saga is to watch. Time and again, Luffy fails, and because of that he is pushed to the brink of giving up his dream. This is by far the most character developing moment in the show for Luffy, because of the subversion of expectations. As a viewer, you feel like you have failed alongside him, because in every other scenario, he wins. Now let's take some notes and answer the question, who is Luffy and why is he loved? He is a simple character on the surface. He's extremely honest and always speaks his mind. We know from the very start of the show what his goals are and how he thinks. He doesn't have a lot of character development himself, and you could very well argue he remains a stagnant character throughout One Piece, but what is interesting about him, and what makes him loved, is that he is a vehicle for others to grow and develop. He knows what he wants, and throughout the show he helps others come to that same realization. He doesn't force himself into others' lives, but instead offers a helping hand and waits for them to accept it. Thank you for listening. If you have stayed until the end, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what character or topic I should cover next.